It was a quiet Sunday morning in Rome when the impossible happened. The bells of the Vatican had just finished ringing when the sky above the city shimmered with an eerie silver light. People looked up, confused, thinking it was sunlight breaking through the clouds, but the glow only grew brighter until the air itself cracked open like glass. A deep vibration followed, not a sound one could hear but a feeling that sank into bones and hearts. Then, all around the world, every television, radio, and device flickered off before displaying the same strange message: Access, Dimension 7. The message lasted only a moment, but that moment changed everything. Panic spread as technology crashed and communication systems failed. Governments scrambled to understand what had happened, but the source of the signal was soon traced to one place: the Vatican. Far beneath the ancient city, deep under marble floors and cathedrals, the secret archives of the Vatican stirred with life. Cardinal Rossi, an old man with a sharp mind and tired eyes, hurried through the dim halls of the hidden research wing, known only to a few, the custodes, guardians of divine science. The air smelled of metal and incense. Around him, priests and scientists in long robes and lab coats worked frantically over glowing screens filled with unknown symbols. "It's active," one whispered, sweat dripping down his face. "The Codex of Light is transmitting again." Cardinal Rossi felt his chest tighten. For centuries, the Vatican had protected the matrix of creation, an ancient device older than the Church itself, said to connect all dimensions through the energy of life. Some believed it was built by angels, others by something not of this world. It had slept in silence for generations, until now. In space, aboard the orbital research station Helios 9, Commander Elena Voss felt her heart race as her monitors went dark. Her team of scientists and engineers shouted over alarms. "We're losing all communication with Earth," someone cried. The station's AI reported calmly, "Source of interference, Vatican coordinates." Voss frowned. "The Vatican? That's not possible." Before she could question further, a swirling light appeared outside the window, a blue sphere that seemed to pulse with a heartbeat. Instruments screamed with energy readings far beyond their limits. "That's no natural phenomenon," Voss whispered. The sphere suddenly expanded, bursting outward in total silence, and a strange new light filled the void. Across the galaxy, ancient beings woke from their long sleep. On a distant world of glass and crystal, the Elendari, an ancient race of luminous beings gathered around their leader. They spoke without words, their thoughts echoing in the air like music. "The humans have touched the seventh gate," their leader said slowly. "The Vatican matrix has been cracked. They have opened the path to the seventh dimension." Every civilization that had once feared the forbidden realm now turned its eyes toward Earth, knowing the fragile balance of existence was shifting. Meanwhile, deep under Rome, Cardinal Rossi entered the sacred chamber that housed the matrix. It was a massive orb of light, hovering above a ring of ancient symbols. Its glow pulsed like a living heart, and shadowy shapes moved inside it as if made of energy and code. Rossi stepped closer, trembling. "God forgive us," he whispered. "We've opened a door that should have stayed closed." The orb's voice filled the chamber, echoing in every direction, soft yet powerful. "Identity confirmed, human access granted, dimensional ascent initiated." Above Earth, Commander Voss stared as the planet's orbit filled with impossible sights. The sky itself began to tear. Through the rift came enormous shapes, fragments of ancient structures floating like cities built from light and thought. It was beautiful and terrifying. Humanity had not only uncovered a secret hidden for millennia, they had crossed into something beyond reality. The Vatican matrix had awakened, and the seventh dimension was answering. The age of secrets was over. Something greater, far beyond human understanding, was about to begin. The world was no longer the same after the Vatican signal. In every city on Earth, the skies still shimmered faintly, as if the air itself had been changed. Strange symbols appeared on electronic screens, written in languages no one could understand. Satellites sent back images of enormous shapes drifting beyond the atmosphere. Structures made of light and stone, hanging in space like fragments of forgotten worlds. Panic spread quickly and governments fell into chaos. Scientists tried to explain it as a glitch in reality, while religious leaders called it a sign from God. But deep inside the Vatican, Cardinal Rossi knew the truth. The matrix of creation had been cracked open, and the seventh dimension was leaking into the human world. For centuries, the Vatican had guarded the matrix, believing it to be a divine relic meant only to be studied, never used. Now that it was active, it was rewriting the very rules of existence. Commander Elena Voss and her team aboard Helios 9 were the first to witness the full effect of the breach. Through the wide observation window, they saw a glowing gate forming near Earth's orbit. It looked like a storm of light twisting endlessly inward. But it wasn't just light. Within the swirling mass, they saw cities, mountains, and skies that didn't belong to their universe. The seventh dimension wasn't a single place. It was a mirror of all possible realities folded into one. "It's expanding," said Dr. Kenji Rao, his voice shaking. "If it reaches the moon, gravitational balance could fail. Earth won't survive that kind of distortion." Commander Voss clenched her fists. "Then we stop it," she said. "But how do you stop something that isn't from this universe?" At that moment, an encrypted signal came through, a direct transmission from the Vatican itself. It was Cardinal Rossi. His face appeared on the flickering screen, pale and weary. "Commander Voss, this is no longer a matter of science," he said. "What we opened was a machine older than humanity. It was built to contain the source of creation itself, the code of reality, but now something is trying to come through it." Voss frowned. "You mean someone?" Rossi shook his head slowly. "Not someone, something. The ancients called it the architects. They built universes and destroyed them when they failed. We found traces of their work beneath the city centuries ago. We thought it was a message from God, but it was a warning." Before Voss could respond, alarms screamed through the ship. Outside, the swirling light had begun to change shape. Something was forming inside it. A massive figure made of energy and shadow stepped through the dimensional storm. It was tall as a skyscraper, faceless and surrounded by smaller glowing forms that moved like soldiers. "Contact!" shouted Lieutenant Perez. "Unknown entities inbound." The Helios 9 station shook violently as one of the beings released a surge of energy that hit the hull. "Shields down to 50%, cried another crew member. The creature reached out its glowing arm toward the planet below, as if it could touch Earth from orbit. Down on the ground, the Vatican's bells rang again, not by human hands but by the resonance of the matrix itself. Across the city, statues and metal structures began to vibrate, echoing a deep tone that could be heard across Europe. Rossi fell to his knees as the matrix chamber filled with light. "It's calling them," he whispered. "They're using the connection to anchor themselves in our world." He quickly turned to his team. "We need to sever the link before they stabilize." His assistants hesitated. "If we cut the connection, we could destroy half the planet." Rossi looked up, determination burning in his tired eyes. "Then so be it. Better to risk the world than to let creation fall into their hands." At the same time, Commander Voss prepared her ship's emergency weapon systems. "Helios 9 to Vatican Command," she said. "We'll hold them off as long as we can." Outside the window, the first real battle between dimensions began. Energy blasts ripped across space, shaking stars and bending the blackness of the void. The seventh dimension was bleeding through reality, and humanity stood at the edge of existence, armed only with faith, science, and their will to survive. The first battle against the architects was chaos unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The space above Earth became a storm of color and destruction. Commander Voss stood on the bridge of Helios 9 as massive beams of light tore through the void, shaking the station with every impact. The enemy ships were not made of metal or any known material. They seemed alive, flowing and shifting like liquid energy. Each blast from their weapons rippled reality itself, distorting time and space around them. "Target locked," shouted Lieutenant Perez as Helios 9's plasma cannons fired. The blast hit the closest enemy form, but instead of breaking apart, it absorbed the energy and grew stronger. "They're feeding on it!" yelled Perez. Voss gritted her teeth. "Switch to kinetic rounds. If they feed on energy, we'll hit them with old-fashioned metal." The ship's railguns roared, sending magnetic projectiles into the swirling enemy mass. This time, the impact made it flinch, chunks of glowing light scattering into the darkness. "That worked," said Voss, her eyes sharp. "Then we keep hitting them until they bleed stars." Meanwhile, on Earth, Cardinal Rossi led his small team through the collapsing tunnels beneath the Vatican. The matrix chamber pulsed like a living heart, its light spreading cracks through the stone walls. Data symbols floated in the air like digital angels. Rossi's assistant, Father Luca, stumbled beside him, his robe torn and face covered in dust. "Cardinal, the resonance is spreading beyond Rome," he gasped. "We're picking up identical signals from the pyramids, from Machu Picchu, even from the ruins of Atlantis." Rossi nodded grimly. "It's all connected. The architects built their gateways across our world thousands of years ago. We just never realized what they truly were. He stopped before a massive bronze door engraved with stars. Behind this, he said quietly, is the control core of the Matrix. If we can realign it, we might be able to seal the seventh dimension. But as he pressed his hand to the panel, a blinding light burst through, and Rossi was thrown back. The Matrix spoke again, its voice a mix of divine choir and digital echo. Human interference detected. Access denied. Purge protocol initiated. The chamber shook violently. Machines began activating on their own, and streams of light formed shapes that looked like mechanical angels. In orbit, Helios 9 continued to fight, but for every enemy they destroyed, 2 more appeared. The enemy ships moved in strange patterns, as if following a rhythm only they understood. "We can't win this," whispered Dr. Rao, staring at the readings. "They're coming from another layer of space. It's endless." Commander Voss didn't look away from the window. "Then we find the source," she said. "We hit them where they're coming from." She turned to the AI. "Prepare the dimensional drive." "We're going in." The AI's voice trembled for the first time. "Commander, entering the seventh dimension without coordinates could erase us from reality." Voss smiled faintly. "Then we'll make our own coordinates. Humanity always does." Down below, Rossi's team barely escaped the collapsing chamber. The air was filled with dust and blinding light. "We can't stop it," Father Luca said, coughing. Rossi leaned on the wall, breathing hard. "Then maybe we don't stop it," he murmured. "Maybe we find someone who can." He opened his communicator and sent a single encrypted message to Helios 9. "Commander Voss," he said, his voice trembling but steady. "The Matrix isn't a gate. It's a key. The only way to stop the architects is to use it, from inside." The message reached Helios 9 just as the station's hull cracked under the next wave of attacks. Commander Voss looked at the screen and nodded slowly. "Understood," she said. "If we have to go inside the seventh dimension, we'll bring the fight to them." The AI began opening a dimensional rift in front of the ship, a swirling vortex of blue and white energy. Voss stood tall, her reflection glowing in the glass as the ship prepared to cross the threshold. "Helios 9, all systems to full power," she ordered. "For Earth. For humanity." The ship plunged into the light, leaving behind the burning orbit of Earth and vanishing into the endless storm of the seventh dimension, where gods and machines waited. The moment Helios 9 crossed into the seventh dimension, the universe around it changed completely. The stars disappeared, replaced by swirling colors and shifting patterns of light that seemed alive. Time felt different there, stretched, twisted, and folded in on itself. Commander Voss felt her heart pounding as she gripped the control rail. Her crew stared out the windows in silence, each one trying to understand what they were seeing. Massive structures floated in the void, like fragments of cities built from glass and fire. Rivers of light flowed through the air, connecting giant towers that seemed to stretch forever. "This place," whispered Dr. Rao, his eyes wide, "it's not just a dimension. It's creation itself." The sensors flickered wildly, unable to measure anything. Voss steadied her breathing. "Keep your focus. If the Matrix brought us here, there has to be a source, something controlling all this." The AI scanned the surrounding space. Energy readings ahead. Central origin point detected. Warning, gravitational distortion approaching critical level. As they flew deeper, they saw enormous shapes moving through the glowing mist, beings of energy and shadow. They looked like living constellations, their bodies made of stars connected by light. "Those are the architects," whispered Dr. Rao, his voice shaking. "They're building, or maybe rebuilding this place." The creatures ignored the human ship at first, focusing on their strange work of shaping worlds out of pure energy. But when Helios 9 approached the central structure, a floating cathedral made of light, the creatures turned. Their eyes, if they had any, glowed with golden fire. A deep, resonant voice filled the air, though it came from no mouth. "You do not belong here. The human pattern must be erased." Commander Voss straightened, her voice steady. "We're not leaving until we find the heart of this place." The ship's shields flared as one of the creatures struck with a beam of golden energy. Alarms screamed, lights flickered, and half the systems went offline. "Evasive maneuvers!" shouted Perez. Helios 9 dove through a field of shattered light, dodging blasts that left trails of fire behind. Voss gritted her teeth. "Rao, locate the control node, the source." Rao worked furiously, his hands flying across the console. There, at the core of that structure. That's the Matrix's reflection, its twin in this realm. The crew watched in awe as a massive sphere floated at the center of the cathedral, pulsing like a heart made of stars. It was beautiful and terrifying. That's it, Voss said. That's where we shut them down. She armed the ship's dimensional drives, preparing to overload them. If we collapse the energy here, it might seal the bridge between the seventh dimension and Earth. The AI warned her quietly. Such an act will destroy this vessel, Commander. She nodded. Then we make it count. Before they could begin the overload, a voice spoke again, softer this time, almost human. Humanity is not meant to rise. A massive figure appeared before the ship, taller than mountains, its body made of swirling light and code. It was the Prime Architect, the one who had built the Matrix long before humankind existed. You were not chosen, it said. You were the accident of chaos, not part of the design. Voss stared at it, anger burning in her eyes. Then chaos built us stronger than your design ever could. She fired the ship's kinetic weapons directly into the creature's chest. The blast rippled through its form, and the entire realm shook as the architect roared in fury. It raised its hand and space itself cracked around them. Brace for impact, Perez shouted. The shockwave hit Helios 9 like a tidal wave, throwing the ship through layers of color and light. Sparks flew across the bridge. As the crew struggled to recover, the ship drifted toward the glowing sphere, the heart of the Matrix. We're close, Voss gasped. We can still do it. The AI's voice broke through the static. Commander, the dimensional energy here is merging with your systems. You're becoming part of the network. Voss looked down and saw light spreading across her skin like veins of fire. She smiled faintly. Then I'll take it from the inside. She turned to her crew. Get back to the escape pod. That's an order. Perez hesitated. Commander, you'll die. She met his eyes and said quietly, If I don't, we all will. The crew obeyed, leaving her standing alone on the burning bridge as the ship drifted toward the core. Outside, the architects gathered, roaring in anger. But Voss stood calm, her hand glowing as she touched the control panel. For Earth, she whispered. For humanity. And then, with one final command, she plunged Helios 9 straight into the heart of the Matrix, vanishing into light. When Helios 9 disappeared into the blinding light, the entire seventh dimension trembled like a living storm. The architects roared in fury as the explosion of energy tore through their realm, sending waves of distorted light across the void. The crew of Helios 9, inside the lone escape pod, watched helplessly from a distance as their ship became a burning sun at the center of the swirling chaos. The dimensional energy rippled outward, collapsing the glowing structures and shattering the golden towers of the architect's world. Commander Voss was gone, yet her final act had begun a chain reaction. The bridge between the human universe and the seventh dimension was starting to collapse. The glowing portal that connected to Earth flickered and cracked like glass. She did it, whispered Perez, tears streaming down his face. She's sealing the breach. The pod's sensors showed the massive energy surge spreading, folding entire parts of the seventh dimension into themselves. The creatures screamed in pain as their perfect realm began to fall apart. But deep inside the heart of the Matrix, Commander Voss was not dead. Her body was gone, but her mind had been pulled into the digital light of creation itself. She found herself floating in a place beyond form, a space filled with countless threads of energy, each one glowing like a living memory. They stretched in every direction, forming an endless web that connected stars, planets, and even souls. Voss could feel time, life, and thought flowing through her. Then she heard a voice, calm and ancient, echoing across the void. You have entered the source, it said. You are now part of what you sought to destroy. She turned and saw a figure forming out of light, the Prime Architect. But now it looked different, weakened, its body flickering like a dying flame. You can't stop it, it said. This collapse will erase both our worlds. Voss stared at it, her form glowing brighter with each word. Maybe, she said softly. But humanity doesn't believe in destiny. We make our own. She reached out her hand, and to her surprise, the threads of energy began to respond. They pulsed and twisted, following her will. She realized that the Matrix was more than a machine. It was alive, and now it was listening to her. You built this place to control creation, she said, her voice echoing like thunder. But creation isn't meant to be controlled. The architect tried to strike her, but her light grew stronger. The web of energy wrapped around the creature, pulling it down. "You call yourselves architects," she said, her voice breaking with emotion. "But humans, we are builders too. We build hope from ashes. We build meaning from chaos. We build life, even when everything says we shouldn't." The entire realm began to shake as she spoke. The glowing threads turned golden, spreading across the seventh dimension like fire. "You can't rewrite us," she said fiercely. "We're already written into the universe." The architect screamed as its form unraveled, scattering into fragments of light that vanished into the network. Voss felt the energy rushing through her, too powerful for any being to contain. She understood then that her life was the final key. Her consciousness could stabilize the collapse and seal the gate permanently. "Goodbye," she whispered, her eyes glowing with tears. "Tell them we were worth saving." She reached out and touched the core of the matrix, fusing herself with the energy of creation. Light erupted in every direction, brighter than any sun. On Earth, the skies cleared suddenly. The shimmering cracks vanished, the strange symbols disappeared, and the air returned to calm. In the Vatican, Cardinal Rossi fell to his knees as the matrix's light faded into silence. "She did it," he whispered. "She saved us." Around the world, systems came back online and life slowly returned to normal. People looked at the sky, unaware of the sacrifice that had saved them. In the quiet darkness of space, the seventh dimension folded into itself and vanished, leaving only silence. Commander Voss was gone, but somewhere beyond time, her light still burned within the heart of creation, guarding the fragile balance between worlds, forever watching over the universe she had saved. The universe was calm again, but the silence carried a heavy weight. Weeks had passed since the collapse of the seventh dimension, and Earth was slowly healing from the chaos it had endured. The skies no longer shimmered with strange lights, the ground no longer trembled with energy pulses, and the signals from space had finally gone quiet. Yet, for those who knew what had truly happened, peace came with pain. In the secret chambers beneath the Vatican, Cardinal Rossi stood before a dimly lit console, the same one that had once connected Earth to the Vatican matrix. The screen was dark now, but he often came here as if hoping to hear her voice again. Commander Voss's sacrifice had saved not only humanity, but the very fabric of reality itself. The scientists who survived from Helios 9 had returned to Earth through an emergency dimensional fold before the gate closed forever. They brought stories of light, death, and rebirth, but no one could bring back Voss. She had become one with the source, beyond reach, beyond life. The world tried to move on. Humanity called it the miracle of the Matrix. Some worshipped it as divine intervention. Others called it science finally touching the hand of creation. Monuments were built in Voss's honor, not just in one country, but all across the globe. Her name was etched into the halls of the United Nations, where leaders gathered to promise unity and peace after witnessing how close humanity had come to extinction. But those who had been on Helios 9 knew the truth. She hadn't just saved Earth. She had changed something fundamental in the universe. Perez, now captain of the rebuilt Helios fleet, often stared into the stars, wondering if her essence still lingered somewhere out there. One night, while observing deep space signals, he detected a faint pulse, rhythmic, repeating like a heartbeat. It wasn't random static. It was structured. He stared at the waveform, eyes widening. It was Morse code. Slowly, the message appeared. "Keep building." His hands trembled as he whispered her name, tears welling in his eyes. Humanity had not lost her. She had become part of the universe itself. As years passed, strange new phenomena began to occur. Across the galaxy, star systems started to stabilize faster than before, as if the laws of physics were subtly rewritten for balance. Energy readings from the center of the Milky Way showed patterns that matched human DNA sequences. It was as if the seventh dimension had merged a small piece of its design into the structure of reality. Scientists called it Voss's imprint. Philosophers called it the breath of humanity. No one could fully explain it, but everyone felt it. A new connection, a harmony between thought and matter. The Vatican declared it the Age of Light, where science and faith finally stood side by side, both humbled by what they had witnessed. One cold evening, Perez visited the Vatican Memorial, where a holographic image of Commander Voss stood, gazing up at a digital sky. He placed his hand against the glass, whispering, "You were right. Humanity always builds again." Above him, the stars shimmered faintly, and for a brief second, the sky rippled with golden light, like a heartbeat in the heavens. He smiled, realizing she was still watching. The knowledge they had gained from the Matrix had sparked a new era. Humanity now understood that the universe wasn't something to conquer or fear, but something to build with, together, generations later. When humanity ventured once more into deep space, their ships carried her name, Voss-class explorers. Each vessel bore her symbol, a burning star surrounded by 7 lines representing the 7 dimensions. Wherever they went, they found echoes of her sacrifice, fragments of golden energy that responded to human touch, guiding them toward new worlds. Humanity had become more than a species. They had become a living idea, the proof that courage and creation could rewrite existence itself. And somewhere, beyond the veil of time and space, Commander Voss watched them, her light intertwined with the pulse of the universe, forever reminding creation that even in darkness, humans never stop building.